It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life brings you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. How do we build happy lives for ourselves and for others? Today's guest, Dan Buettner, has traveled the globe where he's met and cohabitated with people of all ages and experiences in order to better understand how they live, eat, and socialize, and how these factors contribute to their overall health and longevity. Dan reveals surprising secrets of the world's happiest places and shows us how we can apply the lessons of true happiness to our own lives. Dan is a National Geographic Fellow and founder of Blue Zones. He is the author of 3 national bestsellers. His new book is The Blue Zones of Happiness. Welcome, Dan. Thanks for joining us today.
I'm delighted to be here.
So, Dan, your work has been around something called Blue Zones. And for those who may not be familiar with this term, what is a Blue Zone?
Blue Zone is a concept, really, that gets at a process of finding the most extraordinary populations in the world and then reverse engineering their wisdom. And my first set of books found the statistically longest-lived areas in the world, and some people call them Blue Zones. But and then using demographers and epidemiologists and medical researchers, we found the common denominators and distilled down exactly what the longest lived people do, and it amounted to kind of a prescriptive for individuals and cities to adopt to get healthier for the long run. And at a certain point you realize that it doesn't really make sense to live a long life if you're miserable. So I thought about using the same approach to happiness, finding the statistically happiest places in the world and then distilling their lessons. And lo and behold, I got a cover story assignment from National Geographic and got so wrapped up into it that I wrote Blue Zones of Happiness.
For purpose of discussion, how do you define happiness?
That's a good question. Academically speaking, happiness is a meaningless term because you can't measure it. But you can measure 3 components of happiness. You can measure people's life satisfaction. You ask them on a scale of 1 to 10 to rate their own happiness, 0 being their worst imaginable life and 10 being their best. But because you can only remember about 2% of your life, that's an inaccurate measurement. So the other questions are about what you felt in the last 24 hours. We can remember the last 24 hours. So these are questions about how much joy and how much did you smile, how much stress did you have. So that gives us our second measurement. And then the third measurement is about purpose, and if you're using your strengths to do what you do best every day. So these 3 come together for what I call balanced portfolio of happiness, and there are different strategies that you can take to engender each of those 3 facets of happiness. But you want to do them equally. You don't want to excel too much at one at the cost of the other 2.
Okay, so from your work, what are common traits of people that are happy? How do they think, and what do you think they know that the rest of us don't?
Yeah, so I work with Gallup, and Gallup's World Poll has surveyed people representing 95% of the human population. So I don't really look at what individuals do, but rather the correlations. What are, in a sea of data, what are the characteristics that seem to accompany happiness? So one of them, and probably the most salient, is the most happy people on the aggregate are socializing face-to-face 5 to 6 hours a day. So you want to get yourself in a place where you're going to bump into friends and strangers who might be future friends every day. Mm-hmm. And that will make it more likely you're happy. You're more likely to be happy, about 10% more likely to be happy if you live near water. You're more likely to be happy if you're sleeping 7.5 to 8.5 hours a night. Those are 3 off the top of my head, but Blue Zones of Happiness is kind of designed to be a manual to follow a program to optimize your own surroundings.
You know, Dan, when you spoke about socializing being so important, if you look at our society today, I feel, when I look at my sons and I look at the kids, we're really becoming so much more reclusive. We're not going out and spending time with people the way we used to because of technology. And I mean, even kids that are gaming, their socializing is through a computer or a video component. So I think that would have a major impact on our mental health and the way that we're experiencing life.
No question that we're imploding into our devices at the expense of our happiness. But there are other things we could be doing. For example, with our kids specifically, in 1970, about 50% of American children walked to school. And during that time, they got fresh air, they interacted with other kids. That was kind of non-device time because they're walking. They're getting free physical activity. And now fewer than 10% of American kids are doing that. And those are decisions adults make. And that would be a very easy way for us to engineer in an extra hour or so of social time and physical activity if we just designed our cities better. And that's the sort of thing we help our Blue Zone cities do, and it makes a difference.
Dan, in your book, you share Power 9, and these are practices that can be the foundation for a better life. Can you share a couple of these with us and tell us why they're so important?
So I organized an international panel of experts, economists, psychologists, sociologists, to rank all the ideas for happiness, for feasibility and effectiveness. And this list are the 9 top in those areas. So one of the most dependable things you do to get happy is curate your immediate social network. So if you hang out with grumpy people who complain, that is measurably contagious. Meanwhile, if you add a happy person to your immediate social network, that increases your own happiness by about 15%. So you really want to make the effort. If you really want to get happier, you put the effort into finding 5 friends with whom you can have a meaningful conversation every day, who you like, and who you can call on a bad day and they'll be there. That's one of the best ways to permanently set up your life for greater happiness.
Dan, what is a life radius? You write about that in the book as well.
Right. So trying to change your behaviors, whether it's for health or happiness, is a Sisyphean pursuit. It's a recipe for neurosis. Because nobody ever changes behavior for the long run, whether it's diets or exercise programs or even taking supplements. But there are ways you can set up your surroundings. So when our Blue Zone city teams work with cities, we think of about 5 miles, a 5-mile radius around people's workplace and their homes. And that's what we go optimize through. We help them pick policies that favor health and human and quality of life. We go to every restaurant, grocery store, workplace, and school with a Blue Zone certification program that makes those places 20% healthier. And then we get about 20% of the population to take a Blue Zone pledge, which helps them optimize their own homes, their own social network, and their sense of purpose. And when you do all that, we've seen entire cities' obesity rates drop by 15% and childhood obesity rates drop by as much as 50%, but it relies on orchestrating a perfect storm of influence.
The benefits that you just mentioned, people may be listening to us talk about happiness and they're thinking that it's just an emotional aspect of life, but there is science behind the benefits of happiness. And what are some of the things that science does tell us?
Well, first of all, your emotional life is a facet of happiness. Positive emotions are. So is how you evaluate your life and living a life of purpose. So all 3 of those come together. Science tells us that if you can manage your life so you can get in the top 20% of the happiest people, that adds about 8 years to your life expectancy over being in the bottom 20% of the happiness rankings for individuals. Happy people get fewer colds, they're more productive, they have more friends. So it's a really worthwhile pursuit for both individuals, but I argue especially municipal governments to be setting up their policies to favor happiness, because it's your surroundings that drive happiness way more than trying to change your individual behavior.
You offer something called the Blue Zones of Happiness test. Why would someone want to take this? What does it reveal?
Yeah, we actually call it the True Happiness Test. And it will ask you a series of questions about your happiness, the three: evaluative, experience, and purpose, the technical questions. And then they ask you a number of other questions about your habits and your values and how you spend your day. And then, first of all, we rank your happiness on a curve. We'll tell you how you do against the rest of America, but then we'll also give you a customized list of suggestions to optimize your happiness, and it's free at bluezones.com. True happiness test.
So, Dan, what are some of the happiest places in the world?
Cartago, Costa Rica, most excels at that day-to-day experience happiness. Singapore, the happiest place in Asia, and it excels in the life satisfaction or pride. And then Denmark, specifically, I cover in the National Geographic cover story, Aalborg, which is northern Denmark. They excel in the purpose realm. And the reason they do so is because, first of all, ambition and showing off are not highly valued there. And everybody has free health care, free education, and an assurance that when they get old, they'll be taken care of. So they don't get on this sort of mouse wheel of a job so that they can get more of what they don't need or cover their basic necessities. So instead, they're able to get jobs where they can really pursue their passions. And Denmark is a place that's produced Legos, and they excel in high-tech companies and furniture and design and architecture. And these are jobs that really involve your brain and some artistry and hard work, but they just don't let it get ahead of them. They only work 37 hours a week on average.
The book is The Blue Zones of Happiness, Lessons from the World's Happiest People by Dan Buettner. If you would like to get more information about this book or Dan and his work, you can visit bluezones.com. Dan, in about 30 seconds or less, what's the takeaway? What would you like to leave our listeners with?
That if you want to get happier, don't change your behaviors, optimize your surroundings, both social, financial, the way you set up your home, and even your city.
Dan, thank you so much for being here. Your work is a blueprint for building better lives, so thank you for sharing with us.
Well, you made me happy. Thank you. I'm your...
This is Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us. I hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided are the opinions of our guests and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, CYACYL.com. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read our digital magazine, take part in the book club, check out our team, and be sure to follow the show on social media. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.